Today we're going to look at political parties within the United States. First of all, a political party is simply a group of people who share similar ideas, but they're really more than that. They work to get its members elected. So not only are they a group of people who share ideas, but they're looking to get people elected into political office to try to get government to work to promote those particular ideas. In the world, there are three different types of political party systems. There is a one-party system, which are typically communist countries, where you have really only one political party that has a chance of ever winning. Yeah. Think of the Communist Party in China. There are two-party systems. And the two-party system does not mean that there are only two political parties. I know the name's a little deceiving. It just means that there are two political parties that win elections, that really are powerful. The United States is a two-party system, even though we have many political parties. But we're considered a two-party system because really only the Democrats and the Republicans win. If you look at Congress, everybody in the House is either a Democrat or a Republican. In the Senate, those are the only two parties represented too. There's two independents, but there's no other party represented. Every governor in the United States is a Democrat or a Republican. We have lots of other political parties. They just don't win elections. And I'll show you some statistics in South Dakota here. A multi-party system is really probably the norm in most democracies around the world. A multi-party system simply means that there are multiple political parties that win elections. So if you look at, let's say, Great Britain's House of Commons, you will see maybe 5 or 6 or 7 political parties that have elected members of that legislative body. And that's true for Canada and many other democracies. The United States does not have to be a two-party system. It's just kind of how we've evolved over the years. So that is what we are. Though we could, I guess, change to a multi-party system, it doesn't appear that that's going to be the case in the near future. So let's look at South Dakota, for example. I just updated this on September 29th. This is from the Secretary of State's office. They keep track of voter registration in the state. There are 239,000 Republicans, 175,000 Democrats, 84,000 independents. Now, these are people that are not associated with any party. And then we have the Libertarian Party, our third largest party in the state, but only 1,350. The Constitution Party, the Reform Party, this is not correct. I thought I took those out. And America's Elect Party is 8. Now, there is a few others in there that says no party affiliation, which is essentially an independent. But so our largest two parties, Republican and Democrat, by far. But there are other political parties that actually usually have somebody on the ballot for local or even state or even our national issues. There might be somebody from the Libertarian Party running for governor, or somebody from the Constitution Party running for the Senate seat. In fact, there typically is. However, chances are they aren't going to win because most people will vote their party. So if you're a registered Republican, more likely than not, you're going to vote for the Republican candidate. Same with the Democrats. The independents, you don't know for sure. Okay? The Libertarians will most likely vote Libertarian. But even if the Libertarian candidate gets every single Libertarian vote and all of the independent vote, which seems unlikely, but if that were the case, chances are they would still lose the election because the Republican and the Democratic candidate would get the rest of the votes. According to a recent Gallup poll, this shows party identification in the United States. This top line right here is independent. More people are classifying themselves as independents than before. This is a Democrat and this is a Republican. And you see how it's changed here. But these independents are not members of any political party. The other two, the Democrats and Republicans, take up the rest. There's no other party represented, no other statistical party that will give us what has a share of the membership in the United States. Here are a list of all the current political parties in the United States. We have the Democratic Party, and then the Republican Party. And the rest of the parties we refer to as third parties or minor parties. And then we have some like the Constitution Party, the Green Party, the Libertarian Party, uh, and then we have others. And I'm not going to stop to have you read them all, but I'm just going to scroll. Every time we see another one of these, this is another political party. And notice there are many, many recognized political parties in the United States today. These are all active parties that put people up for election. Now, these bottom ones are active parties that have not at this point put anybody up for election. Some of these parties are really one-issue parties. An example of a one-issue party. Let me see if I can find one real quickly. Prohibition Party is a good example. Really, their one issue is ending alcoholism. There is also a marijuana party somewhere in here, or at least there has been. I don't see it today. Maybe they've disbanded. But again, they're one-issue parties. Parties that become successful are multi-party systems, are parties that, not multi-party, but multi-issue, ideological parties that we call them. Okay, and the Libertarian Party is a good example. They have issues on just about everything, just like the Democrats and Republicans do. All right, let's go back. Let's quickly look at this one. The results in the last presidential election. Barack Obama received 51% of the vote. Mitt Romney received 47% of the vote. But Gary Johnson, the Libertarian, received almost 1% of the vote, not even quite. Zero electoral votes here. But if we look at these candidates here, these are all other candidates who ran for president and actually received votes. And they're from different parties. So Gary Johnson of the Libertarian Party actually received 1.2 million votes in the United States. Now, the winner got 65 million, almost 66 million. But it's not like Gary Johnson got no votes. Jill Stein got 469,000 votes. But they're not getting enough votes to come close to winning. That's why we consider ourselves a two-party system, even though we technically have many different political parties. A minor party or a third party currently is any party that's not the Democrats or Republicans. And they very rarely win elected positions. Occasionally they do. I mean, Jesse Ventura was elected governor in Minnesota a few years back. However, it's a rarity. The minor parties can impact presidential elections, though. Now, we're looking really at presidential elections, but it doesn't necessarily have to be, because some of these same things apply to other elections. But they take away popular vote from a particular candidate. Now, what's important to understand is they don't take votes away equally from both parties. Usually, parties are along ideological lines. And if we have two liberal parties and one conservative party, let's say that we have the Democratic Party and the Green Party. And so we have a candidate for each. And then we have a Republican. The Green Party candidate is not going to take votes away, most likely, from the Republican candidate. But the Green Party candidate may take votes away from the Democratic candidate because, again, he's a liberal, more liberal political ideology. So they don't take away equally. I'll show you an example of that here. This is the 2012 election. I don't know why I have that there. Let's look at the 2000 presidential election. Now, to win an election, you need a majority of electoral votes. Well, in 2000, we had two more liberal candidates. We had Al Gore and Ralph Nader run. Okay, Al Gore was a Democratic candidate. On the other side, and Ralph Nader, by the way, was a Green Party candidate. On the other side, we had George Bush, who was a Republican, and we had Pat Buchanan, who was a Reform Party candidate, which is a more conservative candidate. Okay, so this was an exceptionally close election. And when you look at the end, you see that Al Gore got 48% of the votes, of the 50.9, 50 million votes. George Bush got 50 million votes too. Now, George Bush won the presidency without getting the most popular votes, but he got a majority of electoral votes, and that's what's meant. Ralph Nader got 2.8 million votes, which is 2.74% of the total vote. Not a ton, but enough to affect this election. The total electoral votes, you need 270 to win the presidency. Bush got 271. Al Gore got 267. Now, no state can have fewer than 3 electoral votes. So if any state would have went different, like South Dakota voted for Bush, but if South Dakota would have voted for Gore, you could add 3 votes to Gore's, give him 270, take 3 votes away from Bush here, and we have President Gore. But South Dakota wasn't close. Florida, however, was. And Florida has 25 electoral votes. So if, and ends up George Bush won Florida in a contested election. If those 25 that went to Bush went to Gore, obviously we have President Gore. So let's look at Florida. Bush got 2,912,790 votes. Al Gore, 2,912,253 votes. Approximately a 500 and some vote difference between them. But Ralph Nader got 97,000 votes. Pat Buchanan, 17,000. Now the Green Party candidate, right here, that's Nader. If Nader wasn't in the election, you can guess that these 97,000, if they would have voted for Al Gore. Why? Because they're liberal. And it's unlikely that liberals would vote for a Republican. And we know that they'd be liberal because the Green Party is liberal on the ideological stand. The Reform Party candidate, they're conservative. And the Reform Party is a conservative party. It is unlikely that they would have voted for Gore, but more likely they would have voted for Bush. Why? Because Bush is conservative and the Reform Party is conservative. So we can predict that if Ralph Nader wasn't in the election, that these 97,000 would have went to Gore. And if Pat Buchanan wasn't in, these 17,000 probably would have went to Bush. However, certainly 97,000 trumps to 17,000. Give those votes to Gore, and you probably have President Gore. What we're saying is that when a minor party takes away votes from a candidate, they don't take them away equally. It's not like these 97,000. Half would have went to Bush and half would have went to Gore. Unlikely that's the case. The case is that because Nader and Gore were both more liberal, that these 97,000 probably would have went to Al Gore. And we see this in presidential elections occasionally, but you see it more often in maybe a House election or a Senate election. There are examples. So one way that a minor party can affect an election is to take away popular votes from a particular candidate. And it's important that we realize they don't take them away equally. Sometimes a minor party can encourage major parties to face some important issues. Now, if the candidate is, I guess, dynamic enough, they may bring up issues that the people really want to look at. Ross Perot is a good example. When he ran for president in '92, his issues were basically the economy, balancing the budget, and things like that. And even though Ross Perot did not win the election, in fact, he didn't win a single electoral vote, he did force the other candidates to deal with the issues that he was talking about. Sometimes minor parties can do that. They can bring up the issues. They can determine some things that the other candidates need to look at. Now, a third impact is they could possibly take away electoral votes from a major party candidate. Now, again, we're talking about presidential elections. You have to win the state to get the electoral votes. No minor party candidate has won a single state for years, and this has become less of a factor in today's presidential elections than the other two. In fact, if we look at this chart here, if it works for me, we will see that, well, it's going to be going back to 1968 since a minor party has won a single electoral vote. I don't know if the site's going to work for me, but just trust me. So it's been a very, very, very